Welcome back, Ravens. Hope you are all well. Today I wanted to do a style related video and give you a little bit more back history about myself. So I am, as I've probably stated in a few videos, in my 40s. I'm 43 years old and I have been in the goth scene for 30 plus years. So my style has obviously evolved from my, what they term baby bat days, into where I am now. And I wanted to talk about style. There's a lot of subcultures within subcultures. There's a lot of personal preference. There's various different styles, all within the goth community. And they are all relevant. It's whatever you want to make it. But I wanted to really just talk about how my style has evolved, where I see my style going, and what I like, what I don't like, and what I prefer. Back when I first started being a baby bat, unfortunately I don't have any pictures or footage. I've never really been one for having my photograph taken. I have never really liked myself in photos at all, and until the days of the selfie came along, where I can angle it correctly and, you know, take 3,000 photos to get one that vaguely looks okay. Do you know what? I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute because the sun's just starting to set and I'm getting a really green tint off my glasses, and it's driving me mad as much as it's probably driving you mad. So this is going to be fun because I now cannot see anything apart from a vague colour. So bear with me. Where was I? We were talking about, so my baby bat days. I was not one who had loads of photographs taken, so there's not really a lot of evidence. Also, during those days, it wasn't something I was, as they term these days, out with. So it was very hidden. I was making clothes in the background. I was wearing things as and when I could get away with it. Very much under kind of cloak and dagger. Now, that's not a reason I want to get into. My personal life is not, you know, back then anything I wish to discuss. But in the early days, it wasn't something that I could easily go, like these days you can turn around and come home with the black lipstick and everything else and go, "Hi mum, look at this." It's not something that could be done. Bear with me, I'm having an issue. I'm having a fallout. There we go. So it wasn't as easy. As I moved out of home, obviously schools as well, that was very difficult to be individual. We had certain strict clothing rules, so you couldn't bring your individual character to your uniform. The amount of times I got in trouble for wearing a black jumper instead of a maroon one, you wouldn't believe. But once I hit sixth form and I started wearing the darker colours and being a little bit more me, I still had to be very careful. You know, we weren't a school that would allow any form of piercings or anything like that, and I only had my ears pierced at the time. So it was very difficult, and it's very difficult to talk about something that I've got really no photographic evidence for. But my style back then was very, probably what you would term along the grungy style. Now, I have spoken about goth before, what got me into it, and this beautiful lady that I saw in her outfit. And I kind of always aspired to that. She had the top hat and the, you know, the lace and the jacket and the walking. She just looked phenomenal. But when you're in your, you know, mid to late teens, it's very difficult to find that aesthetic, to afford that aesthetic. And although I've always been somebody who can make pretty much anything out of nothing, not having any formal training in sewing, not having anyone to help me, I couldn't go around kind of making fabulous corsets and coats and jackets. It just wasn't available to me. The odd skirt I could do. Wraparound skirts were my favourite, with layers underneath. But it's very difficult to buy when you're a teenager. So once I started working, I could obviously save up and buy little bits and pieces. I could experiment more on my jewellery, but again, I wasn't earning the type of wage that would allow me to do the sorts of things I can do now. Moved out of home, my style evolved again. So suddenly I had money, I had a job, I had freedom to express myself, I could do what I wanted. I found the world of basques and corsets, but I always had this kind of tomboy look. I was very much into somebody who wore trousers in preference to skirts. So in the kind of mid to late 90s and early 2000s, the big baggy trousers, the more kind of edging to what people would now see as more emo or cyberpunk, I went down that route a little bit, but not too far. So it was like baggy trousers, crop tops. I was a lot thinner in those days. Big boots and New Rocks have always been my thing. I bought my first pair of New Rocks when I was, not long out of home. So I think I was about 20 when I got those. I still have them. They are still going strong. They're scuff boots now in the garage, but they still work. They do the job. So New Rocks have always been my kind of aesthetic. And I think in my head, I wanted that kind of almost anime goth doll look. The big boots and the big hair and the little punky kind of outfits, but it never really worked for me. So I ended up going with the kind of big-legged trousers and the boots and the tops, whatever I could find that worked. One of my favourite clubbing outfits, in fact I had two favourite clubbing outfits. One was a pair of trousers that were all hooks and eyes at the side. And I used to undo them to the knee so you could see my knee-high boots. And there was like a little waistcoat top that went with it. That, again, all hooks and eyes, funnily enough, but small ones all down the front. I used to wear that out so much with my hair up in like half up, half down, big, high, back combed bunches. And I would, my other favourite outfit was the big black trousers and like a red basque corset style top, worn over underwear. And that was it. That was kind of my go-to going out looks. For work, it was more toned down. It was just normally plain black, pretty much how it is now. But over the years, there's obviously been an increase in plus size alternative outfits. There's been changes in style, and I've found a way to kind of settle into my groove. So my style has evolved with that, and I'm finding myself a lot more comfortable in where I am now. So in the video previous to this one, you would have seen me in my DIY trousers. That's something that I've worn and would have been very, very comfortable going out in previously if you'd taken, go back 15 years. Now I prefer, on a day-to-day basis, more this kind of look. Your fascinators, your earrings, your jewellery, dressing up the accessories. More dresses with maybe long floaty cardigans, and very much more along the elegant Victoriana goth than the punky kind of grunge goth that I was into. And I think that's down to just my age, my maturing. I'm certainly not going away from the goth subculture. I love being in the subculture. I feel comfortable. And it's very funny. I was talking to somebody literally today around colours, and I was talking about how much I love the fact that our house, as you can see, is black and white, and all the rooms are the same. This room is the only one that has wallpaper. If I turn you around very quickly, you can see that it has wallpaper, but we only have one other room that has a coloured wall, and that's downstairs in the lounge that has a grey wall. Everything else is pure white with black tiled bathrooms, and that's because it's just easier. I don't know if I could live in colour. That's not to say I don't like colours, which is a bit different, and this is what we were discussing. I like purples, I like reds, I like greens, I like blues. I'm not a yellow fan. I'm not a kind of brown fan, or that kind of mustard to beige range between all the browns. That's not me. But kind of all your dark jewel colours I do love. Doesn't mean to say I want to wear them, doesn't mean to say I want to live with them. But black is where I'm comfortable. I feel it's hard to explain. I've had people say, oh, aren't you always miserable because you wear black all the time? It looks like you're always going to a funeral. No, because black is an elegant colour to me. I find it beautiful. I find the darkness in it. I just like wearing it. I love plain black. I love lacy black. And because of that, my style has evolved. I've moved away from... I did used to wear colour in my earlier days. I don't now. I can't remember the last time I wore colour. Genuinely. It was a long time ago. But that's why you're seeing certainly my makeup. And yes, I know you've seen this look before. Like I said, I'm having a filming day. They're all very dark reds or dark blues or dark greens. The colours I like, but not necessarily the colours I would put on my body to wear. But yeah, my style has evolved, and I guess what I'm trying to get through with this video is just because in 1985 you were this type of goth, you don't necessarily have to stay with that. People will probably come and harass me for this comment, but whatever, it's my comment, it's my channel. There are a lot of people out there that say, you know, unless you're trad goth, you're not goth. Unless you're punk goth, you're not goth. And, you know, there are so many subcultures to choose from. And I watched a video, I can't remember who it was by. I think it might have been of Herbs and Altars. Made a comment in one of her videos the other day, basically saying, yes, goth can be a phase. And I totally agree with that. People change, their ideas change. If you think you still have the same thoughts that you had when you were 15, 16 years old, and that your opinions on the job you want to do, or having children, or the type of house you want to live in, or where you want to go on holiday, are the same views you have when you're in your late 20s, or in your late 30s, or your late 40s, it's very rarely going to happen. You know, people evolve, they learn, we're always learning and growing and gaining knowledge. And there's no reason why your style can't evolve with that. I've always had in my head this perfect goth girl that I saw. And I'm like, yeah, I want to look like that. But I can't look like her. She was her own unique person. There's items of clothing she was wearing that I would never be able to get in my size, for starters. She was also a lot taller than I am. You know, she had her own aesthetic, but it doesn't mean to say that I can't aspire to adapt that type of aesthetic for myself. And you may go through a period where you have money and you can go out and you can buy all the bits and pieces that give you the aesthetic you want. And you may have a period where you don't have the money and you've got to think more about putting food on the table and paying the gas bill than you have about how you look. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't aspire to be whoever you want to be. I find things, and it's certainly something I'm doing this year, of recycling outfits and making sure that the clothes I've got are the clothes I want rather than the clothes that I believe I should have. And I suppose, you know, it's more about the accessories that change an outfit. This would look totally different if I took my fascinator off and changed my earrings. I mean, even if I just hide those, this looks totally different. So it's not necessarily about, oh, I've got that caught now. That was clever. It's not necessarily about the dress, whether it's plain or whether it's, you know, a punk rave dress that's got all this different detail on it. It's about what you can do with what you've got. And like I said, back 15, 20 years ago, I didn't have a lot. I had debts, I was living on my own, I had bills to cover, I would suddenly gone out into this wide world and have to pay tax and all these sorts of things, and run a car and, you know, have responsibilities with no one else to rely on. So at the time I couldn't afford the type of clothing that I wanted. It was well out of my grasp, and I didn't have the time to make it or have it made. Now I'm far more stable. I'm, you know, living with Griffin, we both have jobs, we're comfortable in life, and I've had that money to go out and buy the things I want to buy to get the look I want. But it's not always about that. It's working with what you have and being comfortable with who you are. And if that means changing your style, if you've grown up, if you were to come into being a baby bat these days, you would have so many subcultures of people going, oh, you must be into this, or you must be into this, or, you know, you must buy from this brand because they do this. And find yourself, find what you want to be, find what you're comfortable in. I would probably hate being a baby bat in this day and age, because there's a lot more down the kind of, I can't even pronounce it, the Japanese cosplay-ish goth. And you know, when I first started in the pastel goth wasn't a thing. Goth was black. Goth was black and reds. It wasn't whites and baby pinks. Now it's a thing. And if that's the way you want to take your style, that's fine. That's who you are. But as you get older, you know, things change. You have different priorities and your style can change with that. I've had a lot of people comment about, well, I had kids, so I just kind of grabbed whatever clothes were available and I lost my style. It doesn't stop you going back to it. It doesn't stop you going back to being a goth. Even just wearing plain black, if that's just what makes you feel happy, black jeans and a black jumper, that's fine. What you call yourself or what you deem yourself to be is entirely up to you. But allow your style to evolve. Be the best you that you want to be. If you want to wear the flancy outfits and the top hats and everything else just to go down to Tesco's, do it. Do it, because life is way too short. Definitely way too short. And I'm going to be spending this year certainly dressing more the way I want to dress, when I'm allowed out of Tearful, and doing all the things that I want to do that make me happy rather than doing what other people expect of me. You know, I'm too old to care these days. But yeah, allow your style to evolve, allow your style to change, and people can grow. And it doesn't just mean, you know, growing in whatever your political views are or your general knowledge of the world or what you think about, you know, a certain war in a certain country in 1863 or whenever it was. It's about learning about yourself and evolving into who you want to be. Do I look back on my baby bat days and wish I still dressed like that? Occasionally. Occasionally I look back at it and go, you know what, I'd love to wear a pair of baggy trousers and a basque and look great, but I don't have the figure for it anymore. You know, life hasn't been particularly kind in the injury status, so therefore I've had to adapt to my style. It doesn't mean to say that you're changing, it doesn't mean to say that you're not you, it doesn't mean to say that you're going away from the subculture. You're just going from, a bit like a butterfly, you go from a caterpillar into this kind of stasis and come out a butterfly. And if you want to do, you know, if flounce isn't for you and it's too much and you find you're just happy with the calmer side of goth, that's absolutely fine. If you think the calmer side of goth is a little bit too boring, then by all means go out and be more extravagant. Evolve your style to what makes you comfortable and what you can deal with on a daily basis. So that's it. Probably a little bit of a weird video to do, but I wanted to do it anyway. Sorry I didn't have any photographs of what I was like when I was younger. Again, it's not something that I did. I didn't take photographs. I didn't like having my photograph taken. Apologies if the lighting's going a bit. My ring light has just blown up on me. Something else I need to buy. But other than that, I think we're going to leave it there. So, you know, my tagline is really about that. Just do you. Do you in whatever way you are comfortable. If you feel you're losing your style a little bit and want to go back to it, go back to it. Nothing is stopping you. If you want to evolve your style, then do so. Don't let anyone else's opinion or anyone else's thoughts on the way you look, you know, make you change your mind and stop you being happy with yourself. So feel free to evolve. And as always, just do you.